Right, welcome back to the channel. Today, maybe tomorrow, we're going to be putting in some new no-dig beds at the bottom of the garden here. It's an expansion we've been planning for a while and I'm excited to get started. So as you can see, I've got some compost bags scattered about and there's some more in the shed as well. We're doing all right so far this year. It's been much wetter the last couple of days, which is good, so we've got a bit of water in. But by and large, it's been a better start to the season, warm with a bit of moisture, which is great. Now the plan is to put 2 more beds in this gap here. You'll see there's a large bit of grass and I always plan to have another one there and one there. So that's what we're going to do. I've just cut the grass so it's nice and short. I can relay the cardboard on top of the grass. And yes, the next step is into the workshop to measure up the wood. I bought some wood that's very similar to the wood that's here already to match. I'm going to cut it to size. So in the workshop, I've gone down in the garden, I have all my materials ready and I'm just marking up. I'm going to be using these boards here. They are the same. Down here, they are the same as the ones I used previously. This is one of the older ones here that I had left over. I was hoping to get 7 of those to make 4 new beds because I've obviously got 1 left. But actually when I went down to the timber shop, I found they didn't have the same because that was a cheapo from Facebook and obviously very rough cut. This stuff is the same width across here, 150, but it's actually a little bit thicker. So here, this is 22 mil rather than 15 mil, so it's slightly more substantial, which is obviously fine. Now, rather than bother measuring, the lengths are just short of 2.4 meter, which is what that one there is. So that's what I've got here. These are 2.4 meters. They sell them at the shop at 4.8. Easy job, cut in half. The width though is slightly less because I didn't want square beds. This is an offcut from last year's work. I have a bad habit of keeping everything. But that, in this case, makes life easy. So what I'm going to do with each one of these long planks is obviously draw around the edge, create a line, there it is, and cut them short. So that's next job. Then I'll have my 4 sides and my 4 lengths. I thought it might be helpful to show you the setup just so you can see what I'm doing. And there you go. So this is the marked out wood. And this is obviously the section we're discarding. It's on the workbench and I've added a clamp just to stop, because I'm doing this by myself, the back flipping up as I'm cutting this and putting pressure on this end. So that's just a stabilizing clamp. I decided to do it by hand with a handsaw simply because for 4 cuts it's not worth getting out the circuit saw. So that's it. I'm going to cut those 4 off and then come back to you. Okay, so I've cut the wood to size. That's the stuff here. And the next thing I need to do is to do the supports. Now I have these sticks here. These are offcuts from last year and they are just tannalized wood. They are 45 mil square and all I'm doing first is just cutting a rough point on them with the saw here, just to make my life a bit easier when I come to put them in the ground. Nothing fancy or particularly accurate, I'm just putting a little point. So that's the final task here for screwing it all together. Right, job done, and now for assembly. So next stage is to assemble the side, which is the short one I've just cut, with these stakes. Now, not massively precious, but I've just lined them up to their flat there. And obviously by the fact that the lengths of those are all the same length, we'll get a square shape outside, but we'll take a square just to make sure. And again, they're flat on this side. Now, I'm just going to put some pilot holes in here and countersink them slightly for neatness, and then screw them together. Nothing exciting, just a fairly standard brass wood screw. And let's go. Okay, so that's done. You'll see obviously in here we've got a couple of screws in, countersunk onto the stick, stake even. So that's that one, and then I've done the other 3 as you can see here. There we go, so that's 4. And the next and last thing to do before we go down the garden and start installing it is to take the longer ones and to pre-drill the end. So I'm just going to drill them in a bit. So we're going to have a pre-drill hole and a countersunk hole, not through the headphones, and so that it makes my life easier down the garden. So we're back down the garden. The wood is mapped. The wife's in the background, and we are laying out the beds. I'm going to put them together here, position them, and then tap them into the ground. That's done, and the next stage will be to get the cardboard out the greenhouse. Okay, so that is the beds put together. Construction is super easy. It's just the stake we made earlier on, drilled in here in the workshop, and then here I've just drilled in the other side in the other beam. And then I'm just going to square them off with the other beds and push them into the ground. I may dig a slight hole, we will see. So that's the stage of the frame in the ground, all tapped in and line up nicely with the one in front. The next stage is you put the compost, the cardboard down, and then you make sure there's no gaps at all, so it's got to cover the entire base. That will help stop the weeds pushing straight through, and then the compost goes on top. You want 2 to 3 inches at least thickness of compost. I'm going to put another bag in there as well in a minute, and that will give us the coverage, and that'll be enough light to block out the weeds growing through, and then you'll get that. So that's a year old, that one, but the principle is the same across the garden. Let's get that bit done. And that's it. So I have covered, with the help of Team Family, the beds there with the cardboard and then the compost, and spread it out. It's about 2 to 3 inches thick, as you can see, and that's 2 new beds and little bags to go away. And that sort of finishes my setup as I always planned it. I've still got a bit more space which I could possibly expand in next year, but I'll keep that a secret for now, and that's a great way of finding out if the wife watches the whole video. we'll see what happens. So anyway, that's it done now. So that's how I made my no-dig beds. Next week I'm going to start planting. I've got loads in the greenhouse. It'll be ready by then. My last frost date here is the 16th of May, so I'm watching it very carefully. The forecast looks all right, but there is some cold weather just before then, about 4 degrees. It's a bit too tender for most things, so I'm going to have to keep things locked away for a little while. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. If it's useful, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.